Known for performances on The Newsroom, Godless, The Looming Tower, and Dumb and Dumber, and celebrated for starring roles in Broadway's God of Carnage and Blackbird, Jeff Daniels is one of the most talented actors of the stage and screen. Now, he's Tony nominated for taking on one of literature's most iconic characters, Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Hear about how he prepared for his unexpected dream role in Aaron Sorkin's new play, why playing guitar gigs makes him a better actor, and more on this week's Show People. Welcome, sir. So good to see you.
Good to be seen.
You are in the most successful play in Broadway history, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Am I?
Yes, it's killing it at the box office.
If you say so.
It's nice that a classic, really, meaty play like that could be attracting such big audiences.
It's terrific. And I think we're the second play in 30 years at the Shubert.
Right.
Which just that, yeah. I mean, to get into the Shubert as a play.
Yeah.
And then to have the response from the people who love the book.
Yeah.
We saw those people in previews in November. They came to the show with the book right here going,
oh, wow.
Don't screw this up.
They held it by their heart.
Yes, there was a lot of that. And apparently we did all right. So yeah, it's a role like this, an iconic role, written by Aaron Sorkin, Bart Sher, Scott Rudin, at the Shubert, and the critics sing hosannas.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better than this.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
I have a question about the Shubert. I walked by the other day. I love the billing. You get one of those where they have to screw in the light bulbs to spell your name. Have you had that before? Have you had the light bulb, the screw-in light bulb name? That's amazing.
Well, yeah, I have about 190 pictures on my iPhone.
I'm sure
because it won't be there forever. So, kish, 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 kish. Yep.
That's iconic. That's that's theater.
It's the dream come true.
Yeah.
It really is. It beats movies, beats TV. All these things have to happen.
Yep.
And then you're in it and you're running it, and then it's just, you don't want to go anywhere else. You don't want to do anything else.
I love it. I'm glad you're stuck on Broadway in a big hit.
Yes. Now, I've also been stuck on Broadway. I closed Carnage. I flipped roles. And
right, that's right. Yeah, you were in the
I flipped roles, and I was
fantastic.
there when we put it to bed because we were playing to 50%.
Oh,
and
so you've seen the
you could
the
hear
side.
Your voice echo off the back wall. So I've seen both ends.
Okay, and didn't you actually make your Broadway debut in Gemini? I love the play Gemini because it's one of those very early '80s. When I was younger, I always heard about Gemini. It ran a long time.
I remember I was the house manager at Circle Repertory Company in, let's say, '79 when it was off Broadway, and then they moved to Broadway, and Marshall Mason at Circle Rep said he kept me in New York because I was 1 year in going, I'm out of here. I can't do this. I'm a small town Midwest. I'm getting out. He goes, no, you're not. You're going to understudy 3 roles in Gemini.
Wow.
Okay. So I did that, and I was there. I stayed for 6 months or something, understudied the 3 guys, and never went on.
Oh, you didn't go on. Okay.
Never went on. So there was no Broadway debut. It was just kind of a check.
Right. Okay.
A great check because I got to see Broadway and not, go out there and make any mistakes. So it wasn't until 5th of July made it to Broadway that I was on there.
Gemini was right across the street from your light bulb sign. I love
was it?
Yeah, it was on at the Hayes.
At
the
the
little
Hayes.
theater, now it's the Hayes. You were walking up and down that street waiting to go on.
Yes.
Walking by the Shubert.
That's true. Had I known, looking at the Shubert, one day, 40 years from now, but one day.
I love it. Aaron Sorkin, obviously, very talented Aaron Sorkin, back as a Broadway playwright with this show, and you obviously worked with him before, most iconically maybe on The Newsroom. When you heard about this project, he says he wrote it for you. You were like the guy from the first minute for him. And I know you hadn't read the book, right, at that point. So did you immediately say, yes, this sounds perfect?
I did. I don't fool around with guys like Aaron Sorkin. When Aaron Sorkin comes to you and says, this was just over 2 years ago. Scott Rudin just got the rights to the book, and we want you to play Atticus. Bart Sher's directing, we want you to play Atticus. I said, okay, so I should read the book, which was a stupid thing to say, except that was, don't make me read the book if you're just going to take it away from me.
Right.
He goes, yes, you should read the book.
You're locking me in when I read this book.
If I read the book, that means I got it, actor. And it was because, I think, of the 3 years on Newsroom and the approach I took, the work ethic and the preparation I attacked that role with. For whatever reasons that Aaron and Scott and Bart thought it was me, they committed to me right away. And almost a year later, 6 months, 8 months, there was a script. And they were chased. There were some big boys coming after them. They wanted, some big boys wanted the role. But with great thanks to Scott and Bart and Aaron, they go, no, Jeff's the guy. And I had to take my time figuring this out. I remember, as I look back now, the workshops, you wouldn't have known really that Atticus was going to come out of whatever it was I was doing, walking around with a script. And Bart had told me, one of the great things he told me was, you need to slow down. Because I was so film, and especially television. Right. You get 3 takes, no rehearsal. So quick choices, let's go, smart, okay, it's going to be this, go. And so I was in that mode 6 months before the first rehearsal at a workshop. You need to slow down. So, okay. So I backed right off and didn't really do anything and read and let it all come to me so that by the time I was ready to put on the suit, which happened, 4 weeks into the rehearsals, okay, now you've done all that work that you were supposed to have done. I spent the whole summer before the first day of rehearsal in fall memorizing.
Wow.
I was off book before the first rehearsal. A few other people were too. And you do that, especially with a Mockingbird and the hype that's going to come, and we have lawsuits. Right. You've got to be so prepared so when all that stuff hits you around opening, it's Teflon.
And I've heard you say this has turned into sort of an unexpected dream role.
Yeah, unexpected in that a lot of other things have to happen. The critics have to sing hosannas, and they did. And that's never a given. We came into this in the first preview, we had 3 adults playing kids.
Right.
We could have been slapped around for that. Did he live up to Gregory Peck or do something different or whatever? And we take a different turn for Atticus after the trial in the third act, if you will. Yeah. So those 3 things were pretty big. And we easily could have read reviews that said no, no, and no, or some variation, and that didn't happen. So the unexpected or the hoped for thing was that they would sing hosannas, and then you look at the box office and boom, you're sold out for the next 5 months. And they're selling tickets for almost a year from now when you're in it for a year. Right. And you go to the box, you hear from the lobby, does Jeff Daniels play the matinees? Okay, I'll take Wednesday matinee, July 18th. Right. That means I got to be there on July 18th. I can't take 2 weeks off. Right. They're paying to see me and others, but there's a responsibility that comes with being above the title. Yeah. So I take it very seriously. It's a dream role. I enjoy it. We're 5 months in, 170 odd shows, and it's still alive every night.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk more with Jeff Daniels. We are back with Mr. Jeff Daniels, selling out at the Shubert. I love your music. You've recorded a lot of music and written many songs.
I thought that's what I'd be doing at this point. Yeah, I thought the acting would be over. I became an actor because people kept telling me I was good at it. And I kept waiting to fail so miserably or for a long period of time that I would go, see, well, it's over. I told you, very fatalistic about it. And then I would go back to Chelsea, Michigan, raise my family, and probably work at my dad's lumber company. And I would have picked up, I would have been playing the guitar because that's what you do when you're sitting in your apartment in New York City on 23rd Street in one room waiting for the phone to ring, and you just stay creative. It was a great solace, that thing. I probably would have troubadoured. I probably would have done that.
You're very good at it. I mean,
thanks. I've worked hard at it, just out of the enjoyment of it. And then the finger picking, I've really worked hard. I've worked with, taken lessons from guys like Kev Moe and Stefan Grossman, who've, said, try this, try that. And David Bromberg's a friend. There's such an art to what those guys do. Christine Lavin, Cheryl Wheeler, people that can go out with an acoustic guitar and hold an audience for 90 minutes. That's a joy, to go out in front of a room full of strangers, and I've played Birdland and City Winery and 54 Below. You get a room of 200 people and they're right here. It's fun to hold them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the Shubert at Atticus. There are times when the silence is deafening, and you stand as Atticus in front of that crowd, and you turn to that crowd and you start talking to them as if they're the jury, and you got 1,400 people that aren't moving. The familiarity I have doing that comes from all those gigs of sitting on stage and making them laugh, and then slipping in the one that makes them cry and knowing how to hold it and then drop it on them and then they go.
Wow, it's made you a better actor.
Made me a better actor.
Huh. You've talked about how Atticus Finch reminds you of your dad. You've talked about that before. And I was amazed listening to some of your music today. I was actually listening. And you wrote a song about your dad called Good on the Bad Side of Town, which sounds like it could be in a musical version of To Kill a Mockingbird. It sounds like something Atticus Finch could like actually sing, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's goodness in everyone. You just have to care enough to look for it, and you're going to care enough, you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Dad. That was Dad. Make sure you're friends with the kids in town that don't have a lot of money. My dad owned a lumber company, so relatively speaking, we had money. Small business that was successful. He goes, you make sure you're not rich and they're not poor. And that was, he would, at his lumber company, there were parking spots, and he always parked in the one furthest away from the door.
Leave the other spots for the other people.
Not right up next to the front door with his name on it, furthest away from the door. Things like that.
And they also saw something in you. Sounds like acting came very natural to you. You started playing around with it in high school. Tevye is legendary, correct?
Thank you. Thank you
Fiddler
so
on the
much.
Roof, isn't it? I mean,
people still talk about it.
What was the facial hair situation?
We glued it on. It was a gray beard that we glued
big,
on.
crazy beard?
I had blonde hair with bangs, like an 18-year-old Midwestern high school basketball player who had no clue what Jewish was. Not a clue. Not a clue. And the musical director, having just played Fagin in Oliver, 4 months later, we're going to do this summer, we're going to do Fiddler, and you're going to be Tevye. I had auditioned, but you're going to be Tevye. Okay. And I think the movie was going on. I don't think we had DVR or anything like that back in early 70s.
Nope.
So I went to see it 3 or 4 times. So I did a dead-on Topol. Dead-on. And,
well, if you're going to copy someone's performance, that'd be the one.
Yes, yes. She was a little concerned, Diane Elroy, the director. She was a little concerned that I didn't quite know what the Jewish experience was truly about. So she knew a guy who lived north of town that she was pretty sure was Jewish.
Okay.
And so she brought him in. And Frank Warawada, Frank's over there. You want to go talk to him about being Jewish? I grew up to be Harry Dunn in Dumb and Dumber. I'm like, what? So, yeah, and I went over there, and I sat next to him, and, well, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, son. So, what's it like being Jewish?
Important conversation.
And he goes, it's not bad. I said, thank you. And I got up and I left. That was
that
it.
informed your performance.
That was, research is overrated. Went back to doing my Topol impression.
And did everyone in town love the performance? I mean, that's a big role.
Well, it was, first of all, it was 3 hours long and there was no air conditioning. So it was the old high school auditorium. But we were sold out, standing room only, because it was semi-pro. We took community people, and she worked our butts off. Wow. And that bottle dance done by 3 brothers from the same family with real bottles that weren't glued on. They had to do that dance, and they worked on it, and every night it was, would a bottle come off? And, I don't remember one falling off, but that's how hard, and she made everybody work that hard. The work ethic came in early. But there was something about my ability to be on a stage and not be remotely nervous and know exactly instinctively what to do to pull an audience in and then let them out, pull them in, how to use them and how to play with them. And that was at a very early age. The other technical stuff and acting techniques and all that I needed to learn at Circle Rep when I went to New York. But there was a natural ability to be in front of people and to know what to do.
Your first triumph. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be back with more Jeff Daniels. back with Jeff Daniels. So happy you're here. Happy you're back on Broadway.
Me
I love
too.
it. I think
Me
it's
too.
great. I want to talk about the Purple Rose Theater Company, because I think this is sort of a fantastic part of your life, which I really love. And obviously named after the Purple Rose of Cairo, one of your fantastic movie performances.
Changed my life, that movie.
Love that movie. It's a really beautiful, beautiful movie. People should check it out if you haven't. But this theater company has really been a huge part of your life for like almost 30 years now. I mean, you started it in a building that actually your grandfather's? Is that the history of the building?
At one time, yeah.
This is in Chelsea, Michigan.
It's been a part of my life. Theater has been a part of my life. And even though I've done how many movies, TV shows, it was always, I kept going back to it. I never thought I loved it as much as I apparently do.
Right.
But I got an idea. We moved back to Michigan in 1986. Purple Rose had happened.
Started having kids.
The kids, we had one, maybe two. Definitely the movie career was going. I just didn't trust it.
Right.
I didn't trust that it would last. And I wanted to raise my kids in a town that we understood, so when the career was over, I'd be done, and I'd be already be home. When I get the phone call from the agent on Tuesday going, "You're over." What? And then I'm already home. I don't have to move. That was how I thought.
You were protecting yourself.
And while I was there, I got bored. Creatively, I got bored. I loved Circle Rep off Broadway because when I joined there in 1976, I was shocked to see half a dozen playwrights walking around the office, all rewriting a second act.
Wow.
There was an excitement to that, to the writing end of it, to the new play aspect of it. And so years later, when I went back home, I said, what if I bought a building and I found actors in this area who didn't get the breaks I did, but it either had the talent or the potential to be turned into actors that I can teach what I've learned and bring them up and do an off-Broadway or a New York level acting style, directing style, in front of 170 seats in the Midwest doing new plays. And you might want to write about the people sitting in the seats. Really not interested in you gazing into your navel, pulling something out of your personal diary about this angst or that angst. I'm more interested in you looking at the people around you and write what they think, write what you think about what they think, and make them leave rethinking what they think. And you might want to try comedy too, because the last time I looked, the Greeks were holding up two masks. And I don't know when we lost that, but they're equal in my book. And so I also wanted to be a playwright. I wanted to take what I had learned from Lanford Wilson and see if I could find my own voice. And then I wrote a play called Escanaba into Moonlight about 5 guys in a deer camp in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And it was right after Dumb and Dumber had come out. You know, you expected 12-year-old boys to think it was Citizen Kane, but you weren't really prepared for the demographic of 8 to 80. And I said, how do I get those people into my theater without completely selling out and doing whatever? And it's right about them. So we wrote that play, and it's like still is our Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Wow.
That play. We brought it back 3 times. We tore down the theater and rebuilt it. And for that year and a half, we put Escanaba at a theater in downtown Detroit when you didn't go to downtown Detroit. Right. Now we've got the playwrights, now we've got the board, now we've gone to the Humana Festival with playwrights and plays, half a dozen, 10 times, something like that. We do new work, and we do it in a part of the country that isn't, it's not easy to do art there. I mean, there are people that should certainly appreciate it, but for many people, art is someone who lives north of town. So how do you get that guy going to the theater and get him to come to the next show no matter what it is? It's at the Purple Rose. I'm going. It's a new one. We're going. And that's where we are. After 28 years, that's where we are.
And you're writing plays. Aren't you writing a play right now? Are you working?
I am. Lanford wrote a song called Road Signs, and he gave it to me back in 1978.
Wow.
And he had heard me in a dressing room writing, and he said, "You write songs?" And I said, yeah, I do. He goes, "Let me help." And so he handed me a piece of paper. He goes, "That's a poem about a bus trip I took from St. Louis up to Chicago. I don't know, see if you can do something with it.
Wow.
And immediately, boom, did that. And there's a play there. So that's what I'm doing now. We'll open it in January 2020. I'm writing it now. 8 shows a week with Mockingbird, but then that's what you do during the day. And looking forward to that. Really, it's coming along well. I can find myself almost writing like Lanford. It's fun. It's fun to see where it goes.
Sam Shepard Lanford was one of like the cool playwrights when I was first discovering all this. Like, just love.
He was a star.
Yeah.
To me, he was a star.
And Circle Rep was, like you
Circle
said,
Rep was, and
everything.
Marshall came out to a college in Michigan and cast a bunch of college kids.
Yeah.
I was one of them. Saw me, said, you should come to New York. I did 4 months later. And the first day I walked into Circle Rep, there was Lanford Wilson, who we, in the college rep thing that Marshall directed, one of the plays was How to Baltimore. So Lanford Wilson was just the guy who wrote that great play, and there was his name, and all of a sudden walk in, and there he is going, hey, doll, how are you? And you're going, star, first star.
It's amazing all the things that you get to do. You said that you were sort of waiting to fail for so many years. When you look at your longevity, are you just like, well, who's this guy? What happened? How did this
I'm
work
of
out?
the age now where it's all behind you. There's something ahead, but
there's some ahead of
basically
you.
it's and you where you were when you did Dumb and Dumber, where you were when you got a Carnage, took this town by storm, and now here with Mockingbird. Sorkin said something the other day. He said, I wish you could see it, because we can't. We're in it. We're executing it. You think back, I've been lucky. I've worked hard, but I've been fortunate to do some of the things and work with the people I've gotten to work with. I think that's the thing that I appreciate so much now. When you're backstage and Robert De Niro comes backstage to say hello.
Right.
The Clintons come back, Richard Schiff from West Wing came back. And I said, Richard, they keep telling me that I'm the guy that can do Sorkin. I studied you doing West Wing before I did Newsroom, and Allison Janney, and John Spencer, those 3 people. You start to meet people like that who are so taken with what you've done. It's not a finish line, but it feels like you've made it, arrived. I told Aaron once at a Writers Guild thing, I get asked, when do you know you've made it? When a writer like Aaron Sorkin hires you. That's pretty good. That's not a plaque on a wall or a trophy. That's just a fact.
Well, congratulations. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
Apparently I've made it.
You made it. Thank you so much for coming by.
You're very welcome.
You're going to be on Broadway for a lot longer.
1 year,
playing
baby. 1 year.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna miss a show either.
Not really? Okay.
Not gonna.
Good. Everyone go to the Shubert Theater, see this guy's name in the light bulbs. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.